So, imagine this. You're one of the greatest Jedi in the galaxy. You've got the wisdom of Yoda, the skills of Kenobi, and the cheekbones of a space vampire. But instead of being celebrated, you're ignored, belittled, treated like an inconvenience for daring to point out that the Senate smells like corruption and the Jedi Council couldn't emotionally support a houseplant. You try to speak up, you try to raise concerns, and what do you get? A cold stare from Mace Windu and a polite invitation to shut your mouth. They don't question your ideas. They question your loyalty. As if challenging the system automatically makes you the villain. And meanwhile, the real villains are building a galactic death trap right under their noses. And that's the twist. Count Dooku didn't fall from grace. He was pushed. Not by the Sith, not by temptation, but by the people who were supposed to be his allies. The Jedi didn't lose him because he was weak. They lost him because they refused to change. And Mace Windu, well, he was the poster child for that refusal. It's wild. Mace didn't just fail Dooku, he created him. Not with hate, not with violence, but with apathy. Every time Dooku questioned the Jedi, Windu responded like someone who had never been wrong in his life and wasn't about to start now. It wasn't guidance. It was gatekeeping with a lightsaber. And the irony is, for all his discipline and righteousness, Mace missed the one truth that could have saved everything. That strength without empathy is just arrogance in costume. And if you silence every voice that disagrees with you, don't be surprised when those voices come back with red lightsabers and a battle droid army. In this video, we're going to break down how Mace Windu helped turn one of the most idealistic Jedi into one of the most dangerous Sith Lords. We're diving into politics, pride, betrayal, and how one man's obsession with control did more damage than any lightsaber ever could. This is the story of how the Jedi lost Count Dooku, and never even realized it until it was way too late. So here's something weird to think about. Count Dooku didn't start off as a villain. He wasn't born with a cape and a grudge. He was a Jedi, a respected one, trained by Yoda himself, and considered one of the wisest voices in the Order. And yet somehow this same guy ends up forming the Separatists and becoming Palpatine's number 2 Sith Lord. Now sure, we can point fingers at the usual suspects. Maybe it was the corruption in the Republic. Maybe it was the Sith manipulating things from the shadows. Or maybe, just maybe, it was someone inside the Jedi Order. Someone in a position of influence who made life unbearable for anyone asking the wrong questions. Enter Mace Windu, cold, controlled, and completely incapable of handling anyone who didn't color inside the lines. He wasn't just a leader, he was a gatekeeper. And if you had a different view of the Force, or thought maybe the Jedi should adapt just a little, then guess what? You were out of luck. The thing is, Dooku wasn't power-hungry, not at first. He was a visionary, and in a better system maybe he would have become a reformer instead of a traitor. But instead of having a conversation, the Council treated him like a problem that needed managing. And Mace was the guy holding the reins, which raises the question. What if Count Dooku didn't leave the Jedi because of temptation? What if he left because the Order gave him no other choice? What if Mace Windu, intentionally or not, pushed him right into the arms of the dark side? Let's not sugarcoat it. Mace Windu had no interest in perspectives outside his own. If you weren't towing the Jedi Council line, you were basically wasting his time. He talked about peace and wisdom, but ran the Order like a stern office manager who hated freelance thinkers. Take Dooku's politics. The guy saw the corruption in the Senate way before anyone else did. He literally pointed out that the Republic was being bought and sold by special interests. And how did the Council respond? They shrugged, filed a report, and told him to meditate on it. Mace especially had zero tolerance for that kind of thinking. To him, questioning the system was a threat, not a warning. He didn't care that Dooku's frustrations were based in reality. He cared that they were inconvenient. And that's the thing. Mace didn't fix problems. He silenced them. By the time Dooku started talking about leaving, Mace wasn't begging him to stay. He wasn't trying to understand or offer a middle ground. He just let him go. Like losing one of their greatest Jedi wasn't worth a real conversation. Like his departure was a relief. It's frustrating because this wasn't some Padawan with a chip on his shoulder. This was a master who saw what was coming. And instead of listening, the Jedi let their pride win, with Mace Windu leading the charge straight into silence and suppression. It's honestly sad when you think about what Dooku could have become. He wasn't driven by hate. He was driven by disappointment. He believed in the Jedi. He believed in the Force. But he watched the Order rot from the inside, and every time he tried to speak up, he was shut down by people who should have supported him. There's something heartbreaking about seeing someone drift from hope into bitterness, and you can almost feel it in his voice when he talks about the Jedi later on. There's pain there, not just anger. He didn't hate them because they were wrong. He hated that they refused to change. Mace Windu should have been the one to reach out, to offer clarity, to remind Dooku why the Jedi mattered in the first place. But instead, he leaned on hierarchy and tradition. And somewhere along the way, that coldness broke something in Dooku that never healed. Even his fall to the dark side doesn't feel like a thirst for power. It feels like a resignation. A final answer to a question the Jedi never let him ask. That's what makes it so tragic. Because he didn't want to become this. He just stopped believing there was any other path left. It wasn't a betrayal out of ambition. It was a slow heartbreak that turned into rage. And the Jedi, especially Mace, never saw it until it was way too late. When you really sit back and connect the dots, it's kind of stunning how far Dooku's fall rippled across the galaxy. The Clone Wars, the Separatist movement, the entire rise of Palpatine's plan, all of it hinges on one Jedi who lost faith in his order. And that one Jedi wasn't some random dropout. He was a direct result of the Jedi's own leadership. And Mace Windu wasn't just part of that leadership. He was the model for it. Strong, uncompromising, emotionally distant, and absolutely sure of his own righteousness. Which sounds a lot like another guy we all know. Except Palpatine at least smiled when he lied to you. It's wild to think about. Mace was so focused on protecting the Jedi legacy that he helped create the guy who tore it all down. Not because he was evil, but because he refused to bend, refused to listen, refused to believe that a fellow master might have something worth hearing. That's the danger of arrogance. You don't have to be a Sith to be blind. Sometimes you just need a little power and a refusal to question yourself. And before you know it, you've driven away the one person who might have saved you from what's coming. The fact that Count Dooku became Darth Tyrannus wasn't just a Sith victory, it was a Jedi failure, a preventable one. A moment where AEW turns into regret because it didn't have to go this way. But here's the thing, we can learn from it. Dooku's fall doesn't have to be just a tragedy, it can be a warning, and a chance to make sure it doesn't happen again. Because the Jedi's biggest weakness wasn't emotion or attachment, it was isolation. It was thinking they had all the answers. You look at characters like Ahsoka, Kanan, Cal Kestis, they're all Jedi who stepped away from the old system, and actually grew from it. They didn't abandon the Force, they just refused to be shackled by the same rigid structure that failed Dooku. Even Luke tried to rebuild something different, something better. He wanted to teach compassion, understanding, vulnerability. And yeah, he messed up, but at least he tried. Which is already more than most of the Council ever did. There's hope in seeing the Jedi as more than just warriors or diplomats. Hope in letting them evolve, letting them make mistakes and grow. Because the Force isn't static, and the people who use it shouldn't be either. So maybe Mace Windu failed Dooku, but that doesn't mean we have to keep repeating that failure. The next generation doesn't need to be perfect, they just need to listen. In the end, Dooku's descent wasn't inevitable. It wasn't destiny. It was the slow unraveling of a man who believed in something bigger than himself, and watched it decay into something cold and hollow. The tragedy is that he didn't become a Sith because he wanted to destroy the Jedi. He became one because he thought they were already gone. And Mace Windu, for all his strength and brilliance, never saw it coming. Or maybe he did, and just refused to change. Either way, he became a symbol of the Order's failure to adapt. A gatekeeper so focused on protecting the rules that he forgot who they were supposed to protect. It's not about blaming Mace for everything. He didn't plan Dooku's fall, he didn't push him off a cliff, but he sure as hell paved the road and refused to look back. And when the moment came to reach out, to ask why, to offer something more than silence, he chose pride instead. That's the cost of refusing to evolve. You lose your best minds, your brightest voices, until all that's left are echoes and regrets. And when the darkness finally comes, it's not the enemy that destroys you, it's your own reflection. So maybe Mace Windu didn't create Count Dooku with malice, but he helped build the world that made him possible. And in that way, whether he meant to or not, he helped destroy the very thing he was sworn to protect. Thank you for watching the whole video. I make videos because of my love for Star Wars and Marvel. I've been asked countless times how I get my subtitles, and I generate them automatically with a tool I built. That same tool can be used here on my website. It's completely free and doesn't require signing up. My website contains the subtitle generator that is perfect for any video. Blogging post, where you can sign up with your email and receive notifications for when I post, and also my 3 channels. Critical Analysis Hub focuses on Star Wars and Marvel movies. Critical Analysis Hub Plus looks at Star Wars and Marvel shows. And Critical Analysis Hub XP centers on video games, like The Last of Us series, Jedi Survivor, and GTA 5. Thank you for being a fan.